The task for the presentation was just sort of like an update on our opening, sort of our focus for the year. And so we have some slides for RMS just to kind of share with you how our year has started and where we're going next.
I just want to say this. Go Eagles.
Go Eagles. You got it. Go Eagles. So Eagle Nation. So there's a theme as we go through the slides. Hopefully I've done a good enough job of like bringing that theme to life. So last year we really started our work on building this really strong foundation. If you think of it like a plate that everything else sits on, or the foundation of a home. And this is both with our staff as well as our students and our family community. But so our overarching theme really continues to be community connections, and that commitment to building, sustaining safe and positive, inclusive environments for all RMS community members. I would definitely say, as we are now in year 2 of this goal, we're more, last year was a lot of building, and we're still doing a little bit of that work, but we're definitely more in that sustaining part now. So we're continuing to pay a lot of attention to the work that we did last year, but now we're starting to build off of it and layer some things on top. And so this year, our focus really is about building excellence, thinking a lot about impactful instruction, coupled with deep learner engagement, hopefully will increase learner success. So we've laid this really strong foundation, and it's kind of like permeated into all parts of the building now. And so that when you walk around the school, you're present in the school, there's just this hum of all the things that we worked on last year have just become ingrained and second nature. And it's really now part of the culture of the school, which feels really good. So we're really at that building phase. Thanks, Juno. So with that idea of building, so we have really been working hard to build our collective capacity. Knock it off. And this quote on the side, like we talk about this quote with our, I don't think she likes you, David.
It's actually Kim she's staring at.
But we talk about this a lot with the staff. Like I think we probably say this quote at least weekly with the staff, right? We do the best that we can. And when we know better, we do better. And when I think about what we are doing at RMS, everybody is really committed to knowing better right now. And when I think about 5 years ago when I joined the school, some staff did professional development, and there was some engagement with outside professional development. But where we are right now, the rigor and the caliber of the professional development that people are doing and the number of people that are doing it is really grown exponentially. So we had 15 more RMS staff part of Responsive Classroom core course this summer, which is our 2nd year. We've had staff this summer engaged in like a 30+ hour Alton Gillingham training. We have probably 6 or 7 staff members completing graduate level courses. We had about 6 or 7 staff participate in OGAP, which is a pretty rigorous mathematics professional development. The last few years has been provided free in the state as part of a grant with the DOE and New Hampshire Learning Institute. It's called the Ongoing Assessment Project. So we've had staff trained both in additive and multiplicative reasoning. Plus this summer, our math interventionist completed the multiplicative train the trainer, so she can train our staff in OGAP, which is really great. And then the 4 of us went to the Equity and Excellence Summit in the summer, and so we're engaging in professional development also. So there are things that have happened this summer, so people are really invested in knowing better so that they can do better, which is really great. And then as we go into the school year, that OGAP Ongoing Assessment Project training has continued. Our math interventionist is actually just signed up to do the additive reasoning train the trainer. That will start, we're supposed to start today, but it's actually going to start at the end of the month. I think we have 5 or 6 staff doing the elementary letters training, which is a 12 grad credit offering over 2 years through the state. And I'm doing the administrative portion. And then in the spring, we're going to continue with our responsive classroom training with a 1-day workshop. So lots of great things happening. And then there's all of the PD that we're doing in our staff meetings, our opening PD days as well, to kind of couple with all of that. So we're really building our collective capacity to better meet our learners, whether it's instructional practices or content knowledge. We're really doing a great job of knowing better so we can do better. David or Ashley, do you want to speak to any of those things? No. So then that idea of building, continuing, and that we're really working to build our collective efficacy. So thinking about our PLC structure. We met with PLC team leaders this week and did some professional development with them. Really thinking about this quote in the middle, right? We can influence data, but we cannot control it. What we can control is our response to data. And so being very intentional about looking at the information that's in front of us and then responding very intentionally, so that we can support students. We've said this at the beginning of the year too, that, you know, RMS is not an average school. We don't have average staff. We're an excellent school and we have excellent staff. But yet when you look on paper at numbers, some of our students are performing in a very average way. So there's a disconnect there. We have to make our excellent school and our excellent teachers equal students who are experiencing excellence. And so we're going to be very, in our PLCs this year, really focused, efficient, and ensuring that we're getting results for students. And we're doing that through a variety of things, both in partnership with JGS, making a transition to using AimsWeb for both progress monitoring and benchmark assessment, so that universal assessment system, and then really being just continuing to grow our practice and making sure that our formative assessments are focusing on the right things, and our response to them is timely and appropriate, and really makes our students' results as excellent as the rest of the things that we've got going on. So shift to AimsWeb is a big lift for us this year, as well as JGS. So that'll be exciting to have that data and to be able to share that with you. But we're at the training, getting set up, making photocopies, doing those kinds of things right now. And then we'll be hitting the ground running after our first half-day release in October. And then thinking about our facilities, so that building continuing again, and we're building pride, right? So we're taking care of our school facilities. I know there's been extensive work across the district this summer. It was a little quieter at RMS, but things still happen. So we have new signs both out on the street and in front of the building. And then also we've had some painting done. Our preschool hallway is halfway there. It's been painted. It's no longer like a nasty, dirty yellow. So it looks really great. And the floor there is going to be replaced in just a couple of weeks too. So that's really exciting. And so making sure that our school is a place that people feel proud to be, and then they enjoy being there and want to work really hard. I would like to point out though that Sandy's team has been excellent and they've really helped us out. But we have a daytime custodian at RMS who is superior. His name is Brian LeBlanc. He is exceptional. We had one evening custodian through the summer and Brian during the day. And I would probably say that Brian maybe did like 80% of making RMS look as fantastic as it did. At one point, I was walking down the hallway with Ruben and I said, hey, when you see him, please acknowledge or please share your appreciation. As we came around the corner, he's on his hands and knees scrubbing glass windows, right? Like he's meticulous. He works so hard. And really our building looks as good as it does mostly because of his hard work. So it's really great. And then lastly, right, like there's all of the things that we plan for and we're very intentional about. And then there's all the magic that happens in between all those other things. So, having our mascot, Eddie the Eagle, on the first day of 1 through 5, the first day of kindergarten, high-fiving and greeting students as they came to school. The bottom picture on the left, we've already had our buddy classrooms meeting up and connecting. They're going to do something special tomorrow for Dot Day. It's the 20th celebration of Dot Day tomorrow. So we have May, our school therapy dog, who is hit and loved by all. We've got kids working together and solving problems, and the picture in the middle, we did a lot of intentional work with our staff around the first 6 weeks of school, and then modeled those practices by leading them through an activity. Whereas a staff, we made a community quilt. So everybody in our staff, who's on our staff, made a quilt square, and it hangs right outside the office as just a point of pride of we are our staff community, and we love our school. So that's kind of how things are going at RMS. Ashley and David, do you want to add anything?
It's been really lovely to see the start of the school year after, as Nikki said, like laying the foundation last year for really focusing on community and coming together, and to see, being able to start beginning of the year kind of hitting the ground running, and people are invigorated, their hopes and dreams are really on point with student engagement and wanting to do better for the school and for our learners. And so it's really been nice to see.
Yeah.
It's been nice to see the response to the upgrades to the facilities. Just a simple coat of paint can make a world of difference. And it's not only the staff that have noticed, but the learners have made impressive comments about it as well, and are excited to see additional updates.
Yeah, so it's been great. It's been a good start.
Yeah.
And we're ahead of the game on HVAC. Sorry, everybody else, but the upstairs, especially last week when it was 90, the 4-5 hallway was like a cool, 68 degrees. It was beautiful. It was really great. So it's all coming together.
I have a question. How is the teacher morale at school?
I would say it's excellent. I would say it's right.
Yeah.
It's really high, really high, very positive, very engaged. I think that it shows through the professional development. Most of that professional development is happening in the summer on their own time. They are fully committed to knowing better and doing better.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's really great.
It's really great. Yeah. We also have 5 Franklin Pierce student teachers at the moment, and one who's in the master's program, and 4 others. And they've jumped in. So that connection with the colleges or the university has been really great too. But I would say across the board, throughout the school, morale is really high. Yeah.
That's great.
We don't have anything.
No.
We got Yeah.
Are you the only one that talks about it?
Awesome.
It's
Great job.
Yeah.
Right? Or
Pre-K.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I thought so. Okay.
Yeah.
That's going on in pre-K.
Yeah. We got a couple of open spots in our full day program. So I'm hoping that we can do some advertising and get those spots filled, because we've got space, but yeah, it's going great. It's going great. Yep. It's awesome. And May likes it all too. Yes, she may agree. Yeah, wholeheartedly.
And so Jaffrey in the high school. Okay. Let's try how much I missed. Sorry.
Before we start the next presentation, can I just have you move?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
So I'm going to present for Jaffrey Grade School. We've been working incredibly hard to lay some strong foundation, not only within our classrooms, but as our whole school community. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes.
I just want to say, go Owls.
Thank you, Charlie. Something.
Thank you. And so what I'm going to present is just how we've started our year. There's been a lot of work that's happening and the staff is working incredibly hard to find ways to connect with our community of learners in really incredibly positive ways. And I would invite you to come into the school and visit. If you would like, we'd love for you to come in. So just call ahead so that we can make sure that we know and have a visitor's badge for you. But I think one of the best ways to get to know the school is by being in it and seeing how the learners are engaging and how our staff are engaging with our learners. So I welcome you to join us at any time. So the first slide is 3 main components of what we're doing this year. We just finished our goals with staff. So part of Responsive Classroom is hopes and dreams, and then taking those as a staff, I'll read it. I know it's kind of tiny. Sorry, taking those hopes and dreams and merging it together into one cohesive goal. And so as a JGS community, we have 2 main goals this year. We will consistently communicate expectations and respond to unexpected behaviors using restorative and trauma-informed approaches. So that means that we will, in every area of our building, have common expectations that are clearly communicated to all of our learners, that are consistently upheld by all of our staff, and when we respond to those, we're responding with knowledge for our learners' well-being. And so we're going to do a lot of training around what that looks and feels like, but it's really about consistency and calm. Consistency and calm, and being in full communication with our families of our learners as well. And then our other staff is that JGS did not have a really ability within the structure to have consistent professional learning communities within grade level spans. And so Ashley worked incredibly hard this summer to create a wonderful schedule that now provides that opportunity for our teams. So they meet in grade level spans, which means our K1 teachers all meet together, our 2-3 teachers all meet together, and our 4-5 teachers all meet together, and then our pre-K and preschool teachers meet together so that we can really look at the continuum of learning across grade levels. And so because this structure in particular is relatively new to us, they meet with their PLCs 2 out of every 6-day cycle. So it's a really consistent meeting time that we will meet with grade level span teams consistently and use PLC norms to positively collaborate. And that means, as Nikki had shared, how we're looking at data and how we're using that to inform our instruction and inform our decisions about how we're going to meet our learners' needs. The responsive classroom is at both JGS as well as at RMS, and it's the foundation for what we do with our learners. It's not only how we build community, it's also how we can structure our content. It's a full structured system. And so I could talk ad nauseum about responsive classroom and what it means for our learners. I will not do that right now because there's other things to talk about, but if you have any interest, and I know that Nikki is incredibly well versed in responsive classroom, as are Ashley and David, but we really are trying to live it and breathe it this year. And we had several staff members do the training this summer, and we're really starting to see that have an incredibly positive effect on our overall school community, which is wonderful. We worked together to come up with a theme for this year, and this is a theme that we talk about all the time during morning meetings, during our day 1 community meetings. When I do morning announcements, it's just community and connection and community. That is our theme. We're using that language with our learners. We're using that language with our families. If you get our weekly JGS OWL, which is our weekly link, it's our newsletter every week. It's all about community and connection. And we're really working as a whole school to connect with each other, to connect with our school community, and also look at how that connects to our greater community as well. Jaffrey is a very close-knit community, which is really powerful. We had our first parent group meeting called the Back to School Boogie, and it was, we must have had hundreds of families there. It was just filled. It made my heart so happy. And the parents were saying that there was even more there this year than there was last year. And so we really are working purposefully to have our learners understand that school is more than just their classroom. It's how we connect beyond that. And so that's part of our theme. And as science tells us, and as we've learned that if we have relationship, we are more likely to want to learn from that person. And so we're really trying to create those relationships in those communities within our classrooms and beyond. All right, Juno, we're good for the next slide. Thank you. Our building had substantial updates this summer. And I'm so grateful. When I came in on July 1, the building looked very different than it looks now. There was a huge amount that happened this summer. And the owl image is all over our building, and the learners talk about it all the time. It is a beautiful new logo. Our carpets, I actually don't know what the floors looked like before, except for one floor, which is was like broken linoleum, and it's no longer. And so now it's these beautiful hallways with carpets. It's not only beautiful, but it is also for our learners. It quiets the hallway space.
Really nice.
And so when you walk through JGS during the day, it's a learning environment that when you walk by classrooms, the noise that you hear isn't feet squeaking or lockers banging. What you're hearing is cognitively busy classrooms. You're hearing classrooms that are of learners who are talking about what they're learning and how they're learning. And so that's the noise in the hallway now, is of learning instead of the other things. Please come and see our gym. The gym floor is so beautiful. That's our new logo in the middle of the gym floor. And the cubby system is, I think, has been one of the best changes to our physical facilities. We used to have down, as I'm sure you all know, it was new to me, but old lockers down every single hallway at JGS. And the lockers were getting broken and rusty and were starting to cause a safety issue because they were like breaking apart, and they were really noisy. As kids were going in and out just to get their snacks, every time you would open or close a locker, it would be like, and so now when the kids go out, they've got these amazing, it's tiny picture.
Yeah.
I'm sorry,
It's really cool.
but they're so pretty. So I really hope that you come, because it's making the whole building just look and feel more organized and quiet in a learning space. So this cubby system, I feel, was one of the biggest changes, because now when learners walk down the hallway, it has this fresh and new learning focused feeling, which is wonderful. We also have 3 newly structured locations in our building. And they're not actually new classrooms, but we've restructured the way that they're being used. We have the ILC, which is an MTSSB focused classroom, the Intensive Learning Center. We call it the restorative classroom. So this classroom includes some learners with varied needs, and it's a beautiful space. We have an incredible educator, a paraeducator that are in there working really hard to welcome our learners to that space. I don't know if you want to speak at all to that. I know that you've talked a lot about the space in the years past.
Yeah, so this is our tier 3 program. So it's a very small percent of our school population who receive supports and services, and it's self-contained. They're working on building the skills that they need to be able to then go out to a larger community, and we'll be doing some work with some paired classrooms. They have their own schedule for the day and lunch schedule and stuff, and it's working out really, really nice.
Then we have another location that we are now calling the Owl's Nest. Last year, you might have heard it was called like the Behavioral Support Center in the past, but we wanted to restructure how that space is used and the feeling around it. And so we called it the Owl's Nest. It's upstairs, and it's a space for any learner that needs a reset or needs a break to be able to utilize. And so it's still a behavioral support center. I think that at the high school, it might be similar to, is it called, what is it, the access space? It's like an elementary version of the access space, but it's tier 1. We've had, we're tracking the use of it. And so later in the year, I can share with you how many learners have accessed it, but it's busy every day in a really incredibly positive way. And many learners go up there for anywhere between 5 to 15 minutes, because the point of the space is to have the learner be in a place where they can be ready to learn with their peers and be open to instruction, be in a regulated space so that their brain can take in all of the instruction that's happening. So the goal is not for learners to stay there for long periods of time. They come in, they reset. If they need to talk to someone, they have that moment of being able to process, and then we get them back into their learning so that they don't miss instructional time. It's a really incredible space. And Katie Medlock, who used to be Katie Zampini, and Emmeline Bergeron are our 2 people that are running that space. And it is, I cannot say enough positive things about the 2 of them and their partnership of what they've been doing to have that space. And then we have a professional learning space, as we are really focusing on having our staff work collaboratively together look at data, meet our learners' needs. We wanted to give them a space to do that. We don't have a conference room at JGS. So we don't have a space where teaching learners can come together. And so we have this space. What you don't see in the picture is that it's also where like the copy machines are, and like it's also a teacher workroom, but it has a space with a whiteboard and tables so that every time they do their PLCs, they're in this space to do it, so that they have all of the materials they need. There's bookshelves that have responsive classroom books, that have the professional learning books that they need. Oh, and thank you. Franklin Pierce utilizes the space, and Keene State also use the space. So Franklin Pierce is in that space Tuesday and Thursday mornings, and then Keene State does their leadership academy there on Thursday afternoons at 4 o'clock. So they're there right now. So those are some of our new locations. I want to talk quickly about our assessments and screening. Nikki talked about this. We're doing MAPS and NWEA, which is what we've used for a long time. And this year we're also including Ames Web Plus. And one thing that's really incredible about Ames Web Plus, it has Ames Web Plus for reading. The state has new requirements for dyslexia screening for all kindergarten through third graders, that within the first 30 days, 60 days, 60 days, thank you, school days, every single learner in the building every single year needs to be assessed and screened for dyslexia. That's new this year. It used to be just kindergarten for, so that's new, but Ames Web Plus meets all of the criteria, and very few other assessment screeners do that. And it does math. And in addition to that, what is even more exciting is that it has progress monitoring embedded. So what that means is that we do a fall benchmark that has the overall skill set, and any of our learners that show that they have gaps or needs in certain areas within this system is our ability to regularly meet with that learner and find out how their learning is progressing. And our prior MAPS didn't have that included into it. So this allows us to have tracked data that we will be able to say, like, this learner is growing with the instructional opportunities that we're providing them, or they need different accommodations or more accommodations. And we will be able to track that all in the same system with our benchmarking, which is wonderful. Yeah, of course.
It's one of those things that, like many other things, it came out of a need. We had no choice but to look into something to fulfill this dyslexia and other related disorders screening, but it also does a really wonderful thing of filling a need that both elementary schools did not have a universal screener prior to this, and it aligns both schools in a way that hasn't happened before. So it's really a positive step for us.
Yeah, I think that while we all sort of were like, oh, okay, that timeline is really fast.
Starting next week.
Yeah. It's sort of like took that in, and then we also air high fived of like, yes, it's going to push us to do this next thing.
Exactly.
And the other positive is that the middle school and high school are also doing it, which means we will have longitudinal data that could be with our learners for many, many years, which will be really helpful, that we're looking at the same data points. And even if a learner transitions between our two schools, we're using the same screener. So we can have that data for that learner when they come to the middle high school, they will still have that longitudinal data, which is great. And then the last slide, it's what's next for us. We're going through a lot of change in Jaffrey, not only within the leadership, but we have several new staff members. We're using new data tools. We're adding PLC work to this. We're really focusing on responsive classroom, going low and slow with our learners, making sure they understand where we're coming from, focusing on how we can most engage our learners to have the greatest success. There's a ton of change happening at JGS this year. And so we need to be really purposeful about how we respond to that change. We are in a building year, a foundational year of what does this change look like here, and how do we support our learners? And so 4 things that we're going to be looking at next is tracking our MTSSB data through how many learners are accessing the Owl's Nest, how many learners are accessing other supports in the building. What are some behavioral trends? I know that at the end of my first meeting in June, David shared out the behavioral trends at JGS. We're going to continue to track those things this year, and we'll share that information with you. Our professional development of next is that the OGAT, the responsive classroom, the MTSSB training, CPI training, which is also connected to MTSSB, hearing that our staff has a goal around consistent responses to behavior, making sure that our staff is getting trained in the restorative responses and restorative practices and trauma informed, making sure that they're saying, we want this, we're thirsty for it. They're so excited to learn it. At staff meeting, there was so much buzz around that. So now it's about us getting that for them and providing that. Making sure that we're progress monitoring academic data, making sure that we're using those tools that we have to say, are we meeting our goals of having our learners be as successful as we know they can be? And if they're not, what do we need to change? Having the courage to be reflective of that and having both MTSSB data and our academic progress monitoring will be able gives us more information about our learners to help them be successful. And then tracking our own goals. We have these two pretty strong goals and one goal that's pretty widespread. We are tracking our own goals for our own success because they're about how can we help our learners be stronger and learn more. And so having the courage to reflect on how we are doing as adult learners in our building, meeting our student needs, and having the courage to maybe have some hard conversations about what we need to change and laying that foundation with it. But we're very excited. We had staff meeting yesterday and we have a staff right now that is wanting to engage in professional conversations about meeting our students' needs. And as you said, it's really powerful to look around a room and see staff who are like, we want to know more. You're doing the best that you can. And then when you know better, do better. Like our staff is saying that to us right now. That's what we want. And so that's really exciting. We are in a year of change. And so there's going to be a lot of growth that's happening, and change can be hard sometimes. And so we need to have the courage to look at that change and work through those hard things, have the hard conversations, and then celebrate the successes when we get to them. So I think that's it. Do you have anything you'd like to share?
Yeah, I mean, it's been pretty transformative too. I mean, having the facelift in the school helps, but just having this school year start off in a really smooth way was it's really nice. And it's been tough. And we have a dedicated staff and our learners are excited to be there. And I feel there's a new energy in the school, and it's just really wonderful to see.
I think having transitioned over to JGS partway through the year last year, JGS sounds, looks, and feels very different this school year. And we've even seen the transformation in our staff, who are very excited and even gone through their classrooms and have like, I don't need this anymore. Let's get rid of this. Let's minimize this for the learners. Let's make my space, look like the hallways and look, fresh and updated and clean. And they're doing the best that they can with what they've got. And it's been an amazing start of the school year, and having the different places available for our learners and just doing that whole facelift kind of transformation. We're not calling it the support center anymore. We're renaming, rebranding. It's had a positive impact on learners and staff.
And it's really humbling the trust they've put in us.
That's a really good way to say that, actually.
It's a big job.
Yeah.
And we owe it to them, but I see it in just their body language and the way they look at us, like they're really trusting that we're going to lead them.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. Thank you for saying that.
And a large part of that, our ability to do what we have done truly falls on the laps of the facilities and maintenance, who have spent countless hours of helping and getting our facility ready to go for learners. Especially Trey Horn and
Sandy and Chris
Sandy and
Steve.
Trey Horn has
Trey.
been incredible.
Yes.
Steve and Chris.
Yeah.
I mean, our building, literally 3 or 4 weeks before learners walked in, if you walked in the building, you would have been like, how is this going to be ready? How is this going to happen? And they made it happen. I still don't understand the magic that they did, but it,
we
many thanks to
we were boots on the ground too.
we were, but just, there are not that many of them doing a huge amount of work in 3 buildings, all 3 of which were getting a lot of work done. And so, just massive kudos. Thank you for bringing that.
which really tied into the community. The community showed up
Yes.
Yeah.
tenfold. So
For sure.
Yes.
are greatly appreciative of that.
Any questions?
I have a simple question.
Yep.
How many
Franklin Pierce students do you have in your building on a regular basis as student teachers?
We only have one full-time student teacher right now, but we have 1, 2, 3, 4 others that are doing 30 hours of observation. And then we've got a few others who stay for observation right after class for an hour before they go to another location.
Thank you.
It's been, I would love to see more.
Mhm.
I think that the more people that we can have in our building, the better to meet the needs. And I also believe firmly that for those that are going through the process of learning how to become a teacher, the sooner they can be in classrooms, the more prepared they're going to be to meet the needs of our learners. And they also bring really amazing ideas.
Yeah.
They bring fresh and exciting and new ideas to a table. And so I want as much of that as we can have. They're very reflective. And so I appreciate that. So I'd love to see more. And we have seen an increase even in the last few weeks. FP has reached out and said, can we also place these people in your building? So it's been good. So hopefully we'll continue to see that increase.
Charlie, you have any questions?
Yeah. I personally am impressed with the changes at JGS, the positive changes. It's quite a transformation from last year to this. So, but in the process, you're also setting high expectations.
Mm-hmm.
So my expectations of you are very high relative to the results we get this year versus last.
Yeah.
How's the morale at JGS?
I don't have anything to compare it to because I wasn't there last year, but I can share from my experience with the staff right now, morale seems to be very high. Like when I talk about staff meeting yesterday, we run staff meeting the way that we do a morning meeting with responsive classroom where we greet each other and then we do a share out and a walk and talk, and staff were incredibly positively interacting with each other. And there was a moment where for the share out, we asked them to share out ways that they had worked to integrate into their classrooms procedures that were going slowly in a way that helped our learners really be successful. And staff shared out courageously lots of things that they were doing. And I think that it takes a staff that feels comfortable with sharing their ideas to have the courage to be like, I want to share something that I'm doing in my class that worked with learners. And they shared it with each other and then they shared it out. And I think that speaks to where they're feeling like they're having the courage to share things that are going well because they want other people to learn from it. And also in small group, we don't have them do this in a whole, share things that they have questions about. And it takes even more courage to be like, this didn't go as well in my classroom today. Can you help me work this out? And they've been doing that also. So I feel like that speaks really highly to how they're feeling about the year. They're feeling like they want to do better. They're feeling like they want to do as well as they know they are. They're an incredible staff. I mean, they're passionate and thoughtful and creative. And so what they're showing us is that they're ready to use all of that energy inside them and funnel it towards success for the learners. And I'm getting a sense from them. I guess the best way to say is that when I first met with them in, just 4 weeks ago, the feeling I have from them now and the feeling that I had from them then, it feels different. I'd have to look to the two of you because you know them a lot better, but it feels like they're coming to group ready to learn and excited to be there.
There was a lot on their plate coming into this year. I mean, a new administration, new building, a completely different schedule than what they're used to. So I think, there's always going to be that subset of people who are like, let's do this. I'm ready for change. I'm on board. And then those who are sort of on the fence. And then those who are like, yeah, what's really going to change? It's not, what I mean? Who are a little more unsure of what's going to happen. So I think that the momentum is going to continue to be built for morale. And I see it in a lot of the little small conversations that we had. We had a conversation with a teacher today. This is the most positive conversation I've ever had in this office, she said, and she had just lit up. We're going in and we're saying hi to teachers. We're present, we're there. And so little by little, I see the morale building, and I see the energy increasing among our staff.
And I think that a lot of that has to do with the two people sitting on either side of me, because we are engaging teachers as collaborators and intellectual colleagues. the way we're talking to them is about, we want them, we're inviting them in to tell us what needs to work with our learners in our building. And so I get the sense that they're like, oh, let's have that conversation. And that's a really powerful thing, is that, and both David and Ashley laid all of that foundation, and they're in classrooms all the time and meeting with teachers, even in the hallways, like, hey, how do you think that went? And the fact that we're inviting the teachers into those conversations constantly, is saying to them, like, we value what you're doing, we value what you have to say, let's talk about it. And also, if it didn't go perfectly, if there was a mistake that was made, that's okay. Like, we all make mistakes. Let's just name it and own it and say, what can we do better next time? That it's not about shame. It's about, like, how do I do better for our learners? How can I do better for our school? And I get the sense that people are feeling, at least like right now, like that they're comfortable. And I don't have anything to compare it to, but that's the sense that I have, is that we have a staff that's really eager to do what is best for our learners.
I think the two words I would use are more empowered and more engaged.
Thank you. Let's empowered and engaged.
So, yeah, leadership and energy and all that comes from the top. So
That's for sure.
that's my last question is, you've been under fire for 4 weeks. Okay. How are you feeling?
I love it. I love it. I have an energy when learners are in the building, everything, you heard me say it when, like, the first day of school, like, it feels just right when learners come in the building. It's busy. There's a lot going on. I'm learning a lot. It's different from my last, where I principaled last. But I cannot say enough positive things about the community that I'm experiencing right now. When I ask questions, people respond thoughtfully or creatively, or say, I don't know, let me find out for you. I have an incredible elementary team. Nikki is one of the best collaborating principals that I think I've ever worked with. And so I think that I'm really lucky to have this team, because there's a lot that I don't know, and there's a lot that I don't know yet. So even though I've been a principal before for many years, like, I haven't been here. So there's so much new. And I'm talking with kids. I sit down with learners every single day and have conversations with them, and they tell me what they like and what they don't like, and what's working and what's not working. And that is the best part of the job, is I get to spend my life working with the most honest humans on earth. A child will, like, they're gonna tell it to you like it is. And the good, bad, and indifferent. And how lucky we are that this is our life, that's what I get to do every day. So it's challenging, it's engaging, it creates a passionate response. But I am grateful every day when I walk in that building.
And we're grateful to have you.
Thank you. I love being here. The community's awesome. And it feels like coming home, because I'm from Jeffrey. So it also feels like coming home, which I feel very lucky with also. So thank you.
So I do hear, like, such fantastic positive things. And I think you guys touched on to the building. And I was going to say that, how good is it also for, like, the community who is like, like, you want to see change, and maybe from a perspective inside the school, you're like, but there is change, but it's nothing that you can actually see. I think for the community to see that on the outside helps them. Okay, there's got to be something changing on the inside too. It sounds stupid, but, like,
no, it's just really good.
True.
And
We talked
about
and that's why it was like, the opportunity.
Yeah, it kind of, it really, so that's really, and like you guys said, kudos to the team who went out there and slammed that out, because that was insane.
Yes.
But it's just really cool to know and to hear, like, to see all that and the pictures, and how that is not just helping and positive for you guys inside, but I think that the communities, Jaffrey and Ringe both, can see and feel that, and that almost kind of opens the door to a different kind of change as well.
Absolutely.
I agree.
So that's really cool. So positive. But what is something that you think, and maybe she can answer too, what's going to be a struggle? What's going to be something that you guys think I hear, like, woo, rainbows and puppy dogs right now.
Yeah.
What do you think is really going to be, like, tough?
I mean, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think for us at RMS, right, like we've had like pretty significant transformation over the last 14, 15 months with culture, climate.
Yeah.
All of those pieces, and I think that we've laid that strong foundation, and now our focus is really switching to, like, we're still paying attention to all of those things, but now we're building from it and expecting that we are going to start seeing changes and improvements and additional growth in our student success by the data. So like a lot of what we've talked about is like how it feels and how it feels and how it feels. And we're now switching our focus to like, and so what does the data say about how our students are succeeding? And I think that is going to be a mouthful, right? That we're gonna make gains quickly. But the reality is that now we're getting into the nitty gritty. Like, what are my instructional practices? What are the materials that I'm using? How am I engaging students? Are we being really rigorous in our practices? Are we really getting our students to think deeply? Right. And that is, right. That's a big shift, because now that's in all of the parts of the day, all of our academic content, all of our instructional practices. And that takes time to change. And so I could see that we might feel that we are not moving or seeing the results that we would hope to as quickly. But you go slow to go fast, right? Like go slow to go fast. And so it's okay if we don't see those results right where we want them to be initially, but those changing those instructional practices and really thinking about deep cognitive engagement, it's a heavier lift, it feels.
I think a challenge for JGS is that we're in the year almost that RMS was in last year, building that community. And so for us, I think a challenge will be in 2 months from now, when the building and the community feels norm. Like it feels like the norm. We come in, we're in a positive community. We've done this. So when we make that transition, like let's look at not only the qualitative, how do we feel being in this building, but moving to that quantitative piece as well. So I think that will be a challenge. And I think that we still have a full year of working collaboratively to create and sustain a system and structures that support our learners in that positive community and connection. I think that that's a year-long goal for us. And that takes commitment and sustainability. And so I think that will be a challenge, is like, how do we keep up what is happening right now? Making sure that we have structures in place so that in 3 months from now, or in 4 months from now, in the dead of winter, when it is 2 degrees outside and cold, and we're not going out for recess because the wind chill's at -20, that this sense of togetherness and we can do it is still there. And I think that's going to take work. That's going to take work, and helping our learners continue to do that, as well as supporting that feeling of like safety and community in our building. That takes every day, showing up every day and doing it every day. And that will be, that's going to be our work this year. And then next year, not that we're not going to pay attention to this year, but really do the alignment of like our student engagement that we're working on this year. How is that connecting to our student success with our state testing and our progress monitoring testing? Not that we're not going to be paying attention to that this year, but which data points are we looking at and what is important? And we've got some work to do around how community connects to engagement, which connects to growth.
That's great. That's great. Because I was thinking, like what you said, you put on something new and you feel great, but then that newness wears off. So
Yes.
that's great. Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
everyone.
On to Codex.
Okay.
Go Orioles.
Wait, you had to say
I
it.
know, I gotta hear what Jen's is gonna be. So before we jump into how the school year kind of started off, we had a very rough summer, I would say, just dealing with I think our building was the most extensively torn apart with its guts hanging out everywhere. We were kind of isolated to one little corner of the building for most of the summer when we were able to be in. And I share Deanna's sentiment of questioning how school was going to be able to open. I will say the night before, our second floor was still had its guts hanging out and the floors were still unwaxed and we were running furniture around. It was something. So the good news is it got all put back together in time for school. Every night they still come in and take some of the guts out and keep working. And so that was good. We had a lot of other facility work this summer, our new logo and our new unified school identity, trying to get that out there. Helping learners and families to kind of make that transition has been remarkably easier than I was expecting. I think people just were excited to have one consistent thing to be. So our new school store, the merchandise has been flying off of the digital shelves. We're seeing it pop up around the building already. Families are excited to just say Conant and not to say the cumbersome Jaffrey Ringe Middle School / Conant High School we were dealing with for a while. So that's been nice to see that getting out there. Obviously, when we walked in today, you saw it starting to appear in the hallways. We're hoping to extend that flooring basically across the building and start getting that logo around that way. The Pratt got some extensive overhauls this summer. The floor looks just like JGS, nice and shiny. It's wood grade now. All the many layers of gunk are gone and the new logo is there. We got new bleachers put in the Pratt this summer, which is great. We have new mats about to get put up. No, I don't have any pictures of that. I know. I don't know what I was thinking. I saw all these beautiful facility pictures. I have all these kid pictures instead.
Oh,
Darn buildings. But I will share pictures with the ed committee when the painting is done, because that's the last big step is we're going to be painting the whole entire Pratt. We're going to be painting the pipework above that hasn't been touched in 15 years or so, to give it all the same consistent school colors going forward. So when that's done, I will bring pictures of the completed work.
I'm looking forward to it.
Yes. The little Oriole Center got built this summer, and so we now house in this building pre-K up through pre-K, as well as middle high school, obviously. And it's been very fun and cute seeing the babies getting settled in down there with the new playground out back. That's also beautiful. There's just been a lot of things going on, and it was a lot to keep track of. But that being said, school did start off very successfully. Thanks, Juno. So our first couple of days, I'll just give a quick snapshot of how that looked. Good news, success. The building was ready. When the learners came in, I don't believe they perceived any of the chaos that was taking place mere hours before their arrival. The drop off this year was incredibly smooth. We've been working on getting that set. At 7:24, there was not a single car in the parking lot. Everyone was in. I had nobody waiting in the office the first week or so. It was just very, very efficient and quick, which is great. Our schedules, which again, we lost 2 teachers within 2 weeks before school was going to be starting. One moved to Rhode Island, the other left teaching, and that was really tough to absorb that, but we were able to get that squared away. We focused over the summertime and with our team leaders on really setting consistent school-wide norms. So we started off the first day and had great success engaging our learners across all of our grade levels and all of our classrooms, focusing around conversations of respect, responsibility, safety, perseverance, and collaboration. And we're going to continue defining those over the course of the year. We were able to bring our entire school together for an assembly for the first time since COVID struck. So that was exciting, having everyone in one space, welcoming everybody. And that, again, they were excited to see the Pratt in good condition and being able to start the messaging as one whole community was really nice. Lots of good energy the first couple days of school, really great excitement. I was able to check in on our new teachers. They were wonderful. Our veteran teachers were doing a great job. It was just nice seeing kids kind of excited to be here in the building. I'll shout out to our new food service company. They've been really great to have here. Today's lunch was incredible. It was like homemade pumpkin bread, kale that was dressed with honey mustard dressing, this chicken that looked really good. The kids have really been enjoying that. And the first day, seeing their faces when they saw the fresh salad bar, especially the middle school, was fun to see. And of course, the little Oriole Center was a great success. It's huge benefit to our staff having that here in the building for people across the district who have small children. It's had a really nice impact on those individuals, feeling rooted here, feeling supported. And it's been nice for the high school kids who are engaging with that program and asking more and more to do some work in there. It's giving them another opportunity for learning as well. So the first couple of days, lots of success, just getting things off the ground and continuing some of the work the last couple of years that we've done investing in our community. We have some lingering challenges those first few days, some of which are now resolved. The HVAC items continue to be kind of a difficulty the first couple of days. We had some issues with equipment that still was out and about and had to be put away, and that was difficult to work around, but that's mostly resolved. They've done a great job balancing the air load. So, Nikki was saying that they had 68-degree weather on the 100 and whatever degree days. We pretty much had that here with a couple of hotspot rooms, but almost universally very cool in this building. People wearing sweatshirts those days because it was nice in the building here. A challenge was that we had a medical incident on the very first day. Our staff handled it incredibly well. I don't think most of the learners in the building had any idea what happened. It was right as we were going into our school assembly, and our staff and the learners who were in that space did an amazing job circling around the learner, making sure the learner got medical care. So that was a challenge, but I think it showed how our community kind of came together. Our normal hiccups happened in the first couple of days. There's always some issues with holes in schedules that our counselors were not able to fill. So some meetings with learners, although I was shocked that the counseling office was mostly empty on the first day. Have not seen that in the time I've been in this building. Kids finding rooms is always tricky, especially as we move teachers and things like that. But those are all normal things. And some of our recent staff hires didn't start until one was this past Monday and one was the previous Monday. So we started school with a couple of subs in place right out of day one, and that's always a bit of a challenge. We also had our picture day already. It was the second day of school. I will never do that again. It went okay. We didn't really have a choice because of the timing of when Alma and all of that was going to be ready. We just kind of got landed into this date. We will pick a later date next year, but it was okay, and at least it's done. So don't ever do that. It was not worth it. We have already noticed some early trends that are reflective of the work. Again, we've been investing the last several years in our community. I did a quick pull of some numbers, nothing I was comfortable sharing yet, but our tardy to school numbers are way down compared to where they were this year, last year. Our absenteeism, again, at this early stage appears to be trending way down. Our behavior incidents are about half of where they were at this point last year, so that's great. And just being in classrooms, already a lot of really great learning happening. Our teachers are really doing a great job engaging kids and getting them moving. And I will give a big shout out to our new teachers. We've coming into a building that's in shambles and not being able to really get in until literally the day school started. They made sure that their rooms were ready and they were ready to have kids, jumping into the learning right away. So that's been really great. Of course, a big back to school thing for us this year was the ecology school trip. As we've continued to focus effort on our 6th grade transition and really getting that right for the merger of the two towns. This ecology school trip was a big deal for us. It was the work of pulling in a grant, isolating some specific learning in the areas of community and social skill building alongside some science pieces. And the ecology school offered a chance to do kind of both of those things in a unique way that also speaks to our own history, because we used to go to this same field trip when it was the Ferry Beach Ecology School years and years ago. So these are just some pictures. The top left is the yurts that they spent some time in during the course of the day. The kids thought it was hilarious that they got to be in yurts. On the right and bottom left are some of our learners engaged in an ecological play that they put on. And so you can see them kind of doing I have no idea what the actual content was, but the kids were talking about it, something to do with food supply. And the bottom right is just showing them engaged in some activity with the instructors there. And there's the whole group picture.
Well, how many students did most of it? Oh, sorry.
So 68 learners attended. just some data points on the next slide here. 68 learners attended this year out of 90 total, which was 75% of the class, which is wonderful. We'd love to get to be 100%. But of course, this was the first year that we did it, and the grant was not locked down until the second week of August. So given our turnaround time that we were able to get 75% of families knowing the information, feeling comfortable, getting their medical information, doing our sign up and the ecology school sign up, it was a heavy lift to get 68 learners to go. And so I was very pleased with that number. And the learners were across the board. Jaffrey Range, male, female, whatever demographic you want to look at, we had a very good mixture of learners who attended. Most of the families who did not attend did so either because of medical concerns, that even though we could accommodate, families made some decisions just to keep their learners back. There were a couple of families who indicated their child had never been away from home before, and they weren't really sure this is where they wanted to start that process. We had some who moved into the district very late and they said, I just met you people and I'm not really sure that I'm going to send my kids here with you. So there was a lot of that sort of stuff going on. I have not been made aware of any family that did not go because they didn't know about it or have access to the material or things like that. To get families ready, we sent out a lot of communication through US mail and email. Juno helped us by posting on our Facebook page and website a few times with some of our information. We hosted 2 family sessions. One was at night to accommodate families. One was at the tail end of the 6th grade orientation. So as families were arriving to pick up, they had the option of that time as well. So we tried to get the information out and help families. And at the last stage, we did a phone call drive the Friday before until 5 or 6 at night, just calling families who had got something in to see if we could get them on board. So we know what worked, we know what didn't, and next year we'll hope to push that percentage up even a little higher. The activities they did at the Ferry Beach Ecology School included some weather and basic meteorology sort of inquiry. Every day they started off with that, looking at whatever data you look at to measure the weather without scientific computers and tools. They did a lot of food supply and how to reuse and reduce the amount of food refuse that was in existence. Every mealtime had some play that the ecology school staff put on and engaged the kids. There was something about a golden spoon that they brought back with them. They were very excited to do here. So there was a lot of lessons around that. They spent a lot of time in the river ecology because it's no longer at the beach. It's now on a river site. So they dug up critters, looked at tracks and scat and things like that, and learned about the types of things that exist in the river ecology there. Very cool learning that they did that way. They also spent a lot of time just bonding with groups. All the meals were family style, and they did a ton of group activities over the course of time they were there. And we were very pleased to hear early on, and then again at the end, that the group leader said that the Conant Middle School students were one of the best and most focused groups they've had in a couple of years at least. They said right off the gate, our kids were ready to go. They seemed like they were super excited and engaged. They were there for the right reasons. So that was really good feedback to get also. Thanks. As part of our grant and as part of our own desire to improve this process at the beginning of school for our 6th graders going forward, we are collecting 3 types of data. We collected some pre and post or pre-data. We'll be doing post data soon on social connectedness. So we created a survey tool that asked specific questions about how learners feel connected to other members of the 6th grade community, how they feel about friends and friends from different parts of our community, things like that. We did a science and inquiry kind of data collection tool for getting a sense of how they understand the scientific method, what do they know about inquiry and the tools of designing problem-solving processes and things like that. And we also are collecting some data from our staff. So right now I have a snapshot of the pre-assessment data for the science and inquiry. The social connectedness is a lot of long form types of responses. So that one's a little harder to present until we have the post data ready to. So one of the questions we asked, what does the word hypothesis mean? Very basic question, but a good way of understanding how much learners are coming into 6th grade ready to engage in some of that science. Many of the learners picked the answer. That's the best answer. But you can see about half or a little less than half of choice. We looked at what the word inquiry means to individuals, kind of all over the map. What they believe the most important thing to discovery when solving a problem is. There's really not a right answer for this one, but there are answers that are perhaps stronger than others. And again, we had some different choices happening there.
Is this 6th grade questions at the ecology school?
These are pre-assessment questions we gave to 6th graders here to help us sort of gauge how this experience helps get them primed and ready for more science and inquiry down the road.
Yeah.
So we'll administer the same questions again in the next couple of days. Then these were a sliding scale. 1 is not at all, or very, strongly disagree. 5 is, yeah, I really feel strongly about this. So being curious about how nature works was one thing we were interested in knowing more about. How much learners like to ask questions, just to be curious about how things work. How our learners feel about looking for solutions when they seek problems. What they know about the scientific method and how that can solve problems. This one was pretty interesting. The data skews heavily towards them not really understanding the scientific method and the connection to problem solving. So we'll be interested to see what this experience has done to change any of this data. But no matter what, this helps us to really hone in on some early lessons in our science class. And that's that. There were some long form answers to that one as well, mostly around like literally just saying, what does the word inquiry mean to you? You know, when have you used inquiry? Things like that. Those were mostly, I don't know what this word means. We got a lot of that, which is fine. One of the questions asked, what types of tools do you think are useful in science? And we got a lot of, one kid said beakers and forceps and had like really sophisticated science knowledge, but mostly it was like pouring things in and making explosions. There was a lot of that, a lot of goggles. Somebody wrote pencil and pen, interesting, but sort of all across the gamut. With the learners who did not attend, we felt like it was still really important, obviously, for them to have valuable learning that mirrored as much of the experience as possible, with an understanding that it would never obviously capture the same essence of that. So we created experiences for them that were designed to capture things like socialization, which was a big part of this, was joining together learners from the two towns and building community. So every day we built in some group games and activities and some unstructured playtime together, because that's part of what happens at the ecology school. We had ecological lessons each day. One was on the chemistry of life. Then we did a food supply project and introduced some early kind of inquiry and research with the library staff here. Then had them do some digging in about solving a problem related to the food supply with some presentations to administration. And every day they also did an art music type of activity as a group as well. So the learners who were here appeared to enjoy the experience. I could tell that they were bummed that they weren't going, but we at least made it so that was a little bit less of a bummer than it would have been. And when we saw the presentations, the kids did very well. They were a little nervous, but they did a good job and clearly had gained at least some baseline of new understanding of inquiry, which was the goal. Oh, okay. Next steps with sixth grade. We are also going to be doing some digital citizenship learning activities with this particular group, just given trends we've seen with incoming sixth graders and how much more technology kind of becomes a part of their existence in sixth grade. So that's something we're going to be doing with them pretty quickly. It's also part of the grant that we wrote. We are going to do our post data collection to see which areas this trip seemed to have had the largest impact on and which ones it didn't. So we can quickly design some classroom guidance around those areas with our school counseling team to build up and bolster some of the skills that we still think need some attention. We're going to really look at over the course of the year, some of those bigger data points, attendance, how many kids are doing activities, what are we seeing at recess time when it comes to group play, how are we seeing this kind of translate into learner engagement in the classroom, things like that. And then really plan on how we can improve the ecology school process next year, so we're not scrambling around and bothering people at home on a Friday night. And then just a quick look at some up and coming things going on at the middle high school. We have a lot of events and field trips that are already in the works for our kiddos. We have the Curiosity Cube coming to the school here for the middle school learners. Grades 7 and 8 will be participating in that. And grade 6 is going to continue their annual trip to the Boston Museum of Science. So, and the third is another STEM item. STEM and social studies are collaborating on a virtual experience with a STEM speaker who also has a big piece of culture that's connected with some social studies units that are going on. So the STEM focus continues to be really heavily emphasized in the middle school in particular, as we continue to grow those inquiry skills and things like that down the road. Our bands are soon going to be visiting RMS and JGS, and they're very excited about that. That's a yearly thing that they always really look forward to doing. Our visual arts teachers are putting together a field trip to the Gardner Museum in Boston. Our construction trades classes are going again to the career day at UNH and bringing in some other learners through Miss Jackson who have some interest in different careers that are being highlighted there. We are starting the early planning process to restart our AHT, American Heritage Tour, in the spring. We're proposing an in-house led trip this time. The Dakota YMCA no longer does this, but even prior to that, we were looking at bringing it back in-house and having a little bit more control over the process. So we've partnered with a local travel agency and will soon be presenting, I think Monday even, the initial plan is going forward to the school board for review so we can really start hitting the ground running for our 8th graders. Our high school world language and social studies program are looking at a possible trip to Louisiana in April to look at some French language, as well as different types of culture that connect with some social studies units. That's very early planning stages, but we anticipate having a basic plan to present sometime 2 to 3 board meetings. And of course, we have our big events of the fall. The homecoming events are October 7th and Harvest Festival is October 20th. And there's dances thrown in that I didn't put on the list. Actually hovering around October 7th, we'll have one on the 6th and the 7th, middle school and then high school, which is loads of fun.
There's a seventh grade field trip too, isn't there? To Boston.
That's right. That's not on the list. You're exactly right.
It's like next week, I think.
It's in October. Our seventh graders are going on a brand new field trip that they're hoping to have as a yearly experience. They're doing the Tea Party Museum and the Freedom Trail. And one of our seventh grade social studies teachers secured a grant to fund part of that as well, which is exciting. And I'm sure there's other things I've missed as well, but these were the big ones that were on our calendar today. And we are continuing lots of professional learning. Our teams have already started meeting for half-day PD sessions to continue the work of finalizing our learning goals, revising can-do statements, working on some curriculum improvements centered around assessments. So we've already had 2 full PD days where teams have come out for half days to do this work. Our PLCs have begun their regular meeting schedule as of this week. We're kicking NEOSC work off in the next 1 to 2 weeks because this is our 10-year visit year. And we are sending our next wave of teachers to the Empowering Writers Literacy Workshop and the Keys to Content Writing Literacy Workshops over the course of the next few months. So
Keys is great.
yeah, we love that.
Sorry.
But we will have all of our teachers through Keys to Literacy content writing by the end of the year at the rate we're going now, which is great. So we are taking advantage of the fact that we don't have 2 of our regular ed teacher positions filled and trying to allocate at least some of those resources to speeding up this PD process for those teachers. And the payoff has been instant with teachers who have gone to both the Empowering Writers structured writing workshop, as well as the ones doing the 2-day Keys to the Literacy training. That's a lot of our growth in 7th grade ELA scores last year. We started to see that quickly happening after the teachers had access to these tools and resources. So we're excited to continue to push and get high school teachers into this as well over the course of the year. So that's all I got.
Wow,
That's very good.
what a
Busy.
difference, what a difference between this year and last year. That's amazing.
Yeah, we've got a lot going on in all of the schools. It's what I loved hearing these other presentations from RMS and JGS, as well as the one here, where what I keep hearing is we're all kind of singing to the same tune and moving in the same direction. Community, collaboration, professional learning, which in turn raises expectations and abilities for learners to grow. And we're doing the same stuff across the board and we're speaking the same language. So, and that's a big difference too.
That's great.
And all of our logos kind of look the same. It's like, that's a triple.
I went in and tried to get a hat with the owl, the eagle, and the Oriole, but I couldn't find one.
With
all three
of
of them.
So, yeah, so I ended up saying, I have to order 3 hats just to get the logos.
We'll have to get them so it goes like this. You can like spin it, the different schools you go into. You wanna see
Sure,
that?
why not?
Yeah, it's
I'm
good.
fairly sure that one of Jen Horn's children is working on a combined logo because our SAU staff are saying the same thing.
Because what am I
I'm
supposed
all
to
the
wear on
schools.
Fridays?
Right, I'm all the schools.
I'm all the schools.
Right,
So,
That's cute, a lot of
I
them.
can understand that.
yeah, can I just have a Jaffrey Ridge Cooperative School District logo?
You'll have to wear like a hat, a scarf, and a sweatshirt. All 3 different.
Can we get some socks?
There you go.
I will also just emphasize what, I think it was Deanna said this, but it might have been Nikki also. As our buildings are getting some of this work done, the kids and teachers are noticing it, and it does have a big impact. It's not, you're not investing in immediately into learning when you do that, but you're creating an environment that feels more like a learning environment. And so even this lobby out here, when kids came in and saw that the first day, they were like, oh my gosh, look at this. This is really great. They're gushing. It's high school kids and it's just some carpet on the ground. But it made them feel proud. Their school
Yes.
looked better.
Yeah.
And with every single person who goes in the Pratt, even the mats are down right now and there's this weird insulation up. Every kid who goes in there and every adult still is like, oh my gosh, look at this place. So, and the counseling center got new flooring this year and new paint. Again, it just feels like a safer, calmer, better space for learning. So I'm excited to hopefully continue that work. The more we can get that work done, the more it has an impact and the more we can then maintain and keep that going.
I was in JGS the day before school started to check in with the art teacher for the Square One Art fundraiser. And I had my daughter with me, and of course we had to go see her old teachers because she was in the building. And walking down the hallways and our shoes not clonking down the hallway was magical.
Hmm.
That without having students in the building, you could feel the quiet, calm. These hallways are not going to be the trouble space of noise.
Hmm.
It was amazing to walk down the hallways and not like figure out how to like tiptoe so my shoes don't walk down the hallway.
It makes a difference. It really does.
Good
So,
questions for him.
yeah,
Staff
just one
morale is
morale.
good. It's in good order. It was tough starting the year with down some teachers, but I will say that our existing teachers and paraeducators are incredible. Like what Nikki said and what Deanna said. We're an excellent school full of excellent people who want to do excellent things with kids, and you can feel that, you can tell. But our hires that we brought in are also really good.
Yep.
And I'm excited for what they're doing. We ended up with a third art teacher, which we desperately needed anyways, and ended up repurposing one of our open world language positions into that. That teacher's been doing wonderfully. The art classes are buzzing. It's like people, again, just seem to have this energy about them to want to be here and learn and work with kids. So I think little things have helped with that, as well as the bigger stuff. I think having the Alma training this year and having breakfast served with that from the kitchen staff, and it was like a nice meal and they were able to eat it while they worked. That's a little thing that they noticed, but it's also the big stuff. Coming in, the school was miraculously back together. I feel like they had what they needed. They felt they had what they needed. We had a really good run up of PD days leading into the school year with a good mix of time for them to work and time for them to collaborate. I just feel like what the others have said, people seem happy and seem like they're excited to work.
I will also say that in all three buildings, but the HVAC difference, so it's hot and horrible and humid outside, and it is not impacting education
Right.
because it is not hot, humid, and horrible in here at
Right.
all. In fact, it's a little bit on the cold end, and nobody's saying a word about that. So no, people aren't physically exhausted
Right.
at this time of year when it's hard. September and June are hard, and it's not. So the HVAC has been this unsung, I think, true hero in a lot of why this transition has gone well.
The third floor.
Even the third floor.
The third floor, even this summer, that is, we had ESY in the third
Yeah.
floor, and it was extraordinarily.
There have been
That's
some
awesome.
hot spots, but when we say
Amanda's-
hot spots, it's 77 degrees on a 95-degree day. It's not like it was.
That's Amanda.
That science room has been consistently in mid-70s, maybe a
That's
little bit on
awesome.
the higher
Good.
end of 70s is the highest.
Good.
But Leland has been great. When that happens, he comes in, shoots a little gun up there to measure it, goes in and adjusts some things, and then the temperature comes back down. So they're balancing,
That's
but
great.
you can tell when you go outside and you're like, oh my gosh, it's so
I didn't
hot
know
out.
it was
You
like
can
this.
come back inside and you're like, let me get back inside. That was never the case in this building,
No.
ever. You know, and it's,
Yeah, that's good.
and you don't notice it, but it's a good thing that you don't notice it because that means people are just working
Yeah.
and not saying, oh my gosh, it's, so hot and miserable.
Distracted by the
So,
heat. Yeah, that's good. Okay, any more questions?
Mine is.
No.
Okay. Daisy, you have any more
Mine is
questions?
really fast.
Do you have any Franklin Pierce students?
we do, we have 10 or 11 at this point, student observers who are doing their 30 hours. And I think we have one Keene State student teacher in the music area. So we have a total of 12 to 13 post-secondary people in the building. And we'll have, I think, a couple of student teachers next semester. So I will echo exactly what Deanna said. That partnership's amazing. Anytime they've been reaching out and saying, oh, it's just happened today. We have one more that we need a spot. Can you find one? I'm like, yep, we'll find somebody. And our teachers are great. They're excited to have them here. So the more we get those folks in the building, it's a pipeline of wonderful potential teachers, but they do bring energy and ideas. And having a dozen of them in the building, I'm thrilled. So, and we're hosting a class here as well.
The caliber of the student teachers that we have gotten both
been
last year
great.
and this year from FBU have been superior to student teachers we've gotten from FPU 3, 4, 5, 6 years ago.
100% agree.
Yeah.
I've hired several folks from FPU's program in the last couple of years, and every one of them has been phenomenal.
Yeah, they're good. They're strong.
And I will also say, knock on wood, we have had a pipeline of subs that we've been hiring as per diem subs, and I've been fully covered almost every day, with the exception of paraeducators, which are harder to cover sometimes, but that has been a nice surprise the last couple of weeks, not being short every single day.
Excellent. Okay.
So Mine is much shorter because I'm a segment of what's going on everywhere else. So special ed update for us. Our theme for this year is reimagining how we provide services. And a lot of that has to do with bouncing off of, we went to block scheduling and we have grade band differences. It also is similar to, we have to do screening. We don't have the staff that we would like to have. So what do we do with what we have and how do we reimagine that? And we've talked a lot about that with all of our staff, and special ed is a very regimented process, and special educators can be really regimented people. And so reimagining how we do things isn't always easy, but we've been working on it. So our next one, Juno. We've had some significant shifts. We've had a social emotional behavioral center at ILC at Jaffrey Grade School. That is significant. That is a significant change. It changed some of we took staff from the middle school to create a position, and that reimagines how we do business. We were unable to find a school psychologist. Our school psychologist, after many, many years, retired. So we hired an educational diagnostician. What this means is that we do all of the same testing, but we have people doing different tests. We have to totally reimagine how we set up those meetings, how the elementary school, because now that we're elementary through high school, both our school psychologists and our educational diagnostician are doing both. We have to relook at how we do that and what it looks like. In paraeducator land, we are a K-5 and a 6-12 program instead of smaller grade bands. Instead of saying, well, I'm a 1-2 para, I'm a Range Memorial School para. And where do I need to be instead of this is my band? And those are growing pains. But what we are learning is that we have amazing skills and amazing opportunities to meet kids in different ways, and allow kids to be more inclusionary in our buildings. This is also happening at the 6-12. We are a 6-12. We spent many hours looking at every student from grades 6 through 12 and scheduled as 6 through 12, which we have never done in the past. And part of that is a lack of staffing has forced us into looking at things differently. And now we have staff working with a lot of different students and having a much broader understanding of what goes on. And then our preschool coordination transitioning to the elementary administration with David has been a significant shift for us as well. And that process we're in the process of and working on handing that off completely in a slow and careful manner. So just an update, we have hired 3 new teachers and 3 shifts in teachers. We've hired 5 new paraeducators and we have 1 shift. We hired a new administrative assistant in our program, and the educational diagnostician. We hired a part-time MTSSB program development coach, who's working really hard right now at Jaffrey Grade School to develop those programs that Deanna talked about. We have contracted positions with a school psychologist, speech and language pathologist, teacher of the visually impaired, teacher in orientation and mobility, which is not on here, physical therapist, and a BCBA. So those are some shifts and where we're at. And we currently have 3 open teacher positions that's here at the middle and high school, and 13 or more para positions. So that 3 teacher positions open at the middle and high school is an extraordinarily difficult lift. Just so you're aware, we have about 234 identified students within the district. We currently have roughly 18 out of district students and 8 identified students in charter schools, for a total of about 260 identified students attached to our district. And these ebb and flow as students move in and out. We have had, and we say this every year, but we truly in August had an influx of severely disabled students move into our district, which has been also a heavy load. And we have staff that we're figuring out how to balance all of that load. But it has been a difficult start for student services this year. We didn't have a flood though, so
It's
there is, I mean,
always a bright side.
there, I tell you. Glows, the areas where we have glowed, where we're shining, JGS reimagining our behavior support program and the intensive behavior program is, and you've already heard about that, elementary behavior support personnel in both buildings have counseling and psychology backgrounds. Both of our elementary behavior support programs are tier 1, 2, providing that so that when they get up here to 6th grade, we're looking at a different, our hope is we're looking at a different set of circumstances. We've established a sensory room, and we're in process of continuing to grow that at Jeffrey Grade School that mirrors what's available for all students at Ringe. And we're working on one at the Conant Middle High School. This is a big deal and a shift for us. Greater integration into general classes at Conant Middle High School. Our ILC kids, in the past, we've had a lot of kids who never leave the intensive learning center. And this year, it's a very different feel and it's going well. It's again, and that what this really means is our weakness means that there's a bigger lift on everyone else, and the general ed programs are carrying more than they have in the past. And that's true of my tenure here, that it's been where the support is where it needs to be instead of moved away from the general. We have small pockets of co-teaching. We know that this is some best practice and we would really love to grow this. And we'll continue to look at that. Paras are getting para certified. That a big part of our negotiations last year was that para certification gives you a lift in finances. But what that also tells you is that there's specific training happening and they're keeping that training in order to get it. And those are starting to roll in. And people are taking the time to get certified and keep their certifications, which means we have better qualified and continued qualified staff, that professional development. We're strengthening our process for providing specialized instruction. The middle high school, especially at the elementary school, we're pretty good at this. We pull out, we have groups at the middle and high school, they're in classes, and we've often provided a lab, which is working on their classwork, but not trying to shorten that gap between why they need that extra support. So we're strengthening that. Even with our lack of teachers at the middle and high school and our administrative staff, we're working really hard to provide really the specialized instruction that's necessary. We'll continue with our case management academies. Our student services administration are sitting on state committees for charter schools and special ed administration training. So we're also working on as the state and with the state to be part of that cutting edge of what's going on across the state. So those are our glows. Our grows, that our strength does not come from winning. Our struggles develop our strengths. And when you go through hardships and decide not to surrender, that's a strength. And that's kind of how we're feeling. We're the transitioning of the preschool coordinator to elementary administration is an area where we're continuing to work, trying to develop sustainability when we're really short-staffed, and that's a nationwide concern. It's a statewide concern. We're doing better than many other districts. It doesn't feel good, but we're doing what we can. New practices for evaluations that we're working on. We haven't re-looked at how we evaluate our support staff since the first year I was here. So we're at 6 years. We've had a lot of growth. We've done a lot of good things. It's time to relook at that. Supporting learners in charter schools is a grow, but it's also, we're also is a grow. We're doing well, but it's a grow. It's the impact of that was something we did not foresee, and it's heavy. And then onboarding training continues to be something district-wide, and that's something that we continue to work on.
Can I just ask real quick on the supporting learners in charter schools? Is that because they're under this district? So you always have to go, state requires to
There's a lot of
follow them?
Yeah, so we're still the LEA. We have to oversee that they're getting their services. If they don't have people to provide their services, we have to figure out how they get them. They either come to us or we contract out services for them. Charter schools require fewer people to be certified. So one of our charter schools has less than 50% of their teachers are certified teachers, no certified special educators, and yet a number of our special ed students have gone there. It's a heavy lift.
Why does that fall on you guys and not?
Because we live in New Hampshire.
Oh, really? It's like a New Hampshire thing?
Mhm.
For some reason, it's the district and not,
The way that charter schools and special ed work in New Hampshire is different than most every other state because we live in New Hampshire.
okay. Curious, just didn't know that. Thank you. Okay.
Yeah, Deanna could talk ad nauseum about responsive classroom. Do not get me started on charter schools. Go to the next slide. So, and Storm put this last one in. Storm and Trisha were great about helping today to develop. We have been super busy. In any event, what you need to know is that we do love what we do. And that's who we are in our office. We are following through with that. Strength comes from not giving up. So, your question, I think morale, generally, I believe that the morale in special ed at the elementary schools, I think is good. They're feeling very supported. And I think they're doing really wonderful jobs. We have incredible special educators in both elementary schools now. In the past, I could have told you that there's some pockets here and some pockets here. Incredible support going on in the special ed world, and their integration into the rest of the school is really, really impressive. At the middle and high school, it's a harder lift, and I think that morale is okay. We're figuring it out, and we're being supportive for sure. Trisha, Storm, and I are doing a lot of the lifting of the load so that the extra doesn't fall on the staff that we do have. So I think it's more disjointed and it's a little bit more difficult, but I don't feel like the morale is bad about it either. So
I feel like as a credit to the special educators in the building here, they have taken whatever's been served, and thanks to, again, a lot of the support you're giving them, have continued to, I'd say, innovate their programs and do it with a really positive attitude. I've been very, very impressed with some of the shifts that have gone on despite missing 3 staff and 3 teachers and 7 or 8 paraeducators. It's been incredible.
And what that really means is students are in classrooms because there's nowhere to hide, because there's nowhere to sit. There's nowhere else to go. You need to go to class because of other things to do. And in the years past, there was less of that. So I think there's some really amazing things happening at the middle and high school. And I credit the 3 principals and the leadership teams with that happening, that a lot of it gets handed back to general education, and that's where it should be. So, questions for me?
I just want to say that of all our departments, special ed has been the most stressed. And I just want to offer my compliments for how you survived, and not only that, made things even better. And I find it amazing. I just want to tell you, I appreciate what you do.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, that nuanced conversation about charter schools is just one of the things that people don't even realize a lot of times that student services has to kind of take on. And when I hear stories of how you have to try to pick up some of those pieces in addition to what you're already doing here, and then the new laws that come down, it's pretty incredible that everyone on your team still smiles and is having a great time with kids.
And things can change in 12 hours.
Right.
Right?
Or
Or
at 2:30,
Yeah.
when you get a phone call that says we no longer have a bus for this out of district run.
But students move and it can have seismic
Yes.
impacts overnight. And they're the things that, like, you're just nimble and quick and responsive, and our students don't ever experience the churning waters. It's always calm to them.
Or the state comes in and makes these changes and that are requirements now that the districts have to shift. Another grow is the tools that we have been using for reporting preschool outcome measures. The state is switching over to a different tool and will no longer be using the tools that we've been using. So we're trying to be proactive and stay ahead of the curve and try to switch over to the new tool this year. And trying to figure out when we can get that training and how to get that all signed up. So Jen and I met for a couple hours stage trying to figure some of that stuff out. So still a lot of growing, but we'll get there.
And somehow you and Storm and Trisha and many of the special educators, at least in our building here, are doing after school activities, running clubs. I don't know how you have the energy for that, but it still happens. So I just want to echo what you said, Charlie. I really appreciate you and your team.
I think we're very, and I think that's true of this, the administrative team in this district is student-centered. We have kids here. We're student-centered, and so, yeah, will you do a club because these kids want to? Okay.
Opponent time, here we go.
Okay,
So I just wanted to tell you that I often see our reps in Ringe, state reps in Ringe, and every time I see them, I tell them, your unfunded mandates are killing us.
Mhm.
So I absolutely understand where you're coming from. It's just, even if it doesn't change anything else, you end up with more paperwork. And I tell them, we're gonna have to create a position, do nothing but paperwork for the state. And our taxpayers are gonna have to pay for it.
Right.
I think though, this year, I mean, it's great, like our elementary admin team, like our bigger district team, I think the support from Ruben. For all of the things that we've wanted to do, whether it's go to the conference in Boston this summer or buy cubbies or get new flooring or send people to professional development, like.
Or build a
saying-
daycare for staff members to
Yeah.
be able to stay here and feel safe in their
Yeah.
work, like.
Ruben's all in and his answer is 99% of the time, yes, and then that 1% is, I think so, let me see what I can do. And
How
then
can we,
and then
how
it's
can we
just,
make
how
it
can we
happen?
make it
How
happen?
can we,
So
how can we work together to make it happen?
we had said something at the beginning of the year in a staff meeting about, you know what? The grass is greener. You know, there's that, the grass is greener on the other side. It's like, well, actually, you know what? The grass is greener here. And there's that collective, like the staff at RMS were like, yep, it really is. Like this, the grass is greener in SAU 47.
Good SAU to be
It's
at.
great.
We had a teacher who attended a UNH science, like 2-week STEM science program. It was pretty incredible. He got selected for it. But he came back and told all of our staff exactly what you just said. He said, I gotta tell you, the conversations with people from all these other districts, my eyes were open. He said, this is the place to be. And they were shocked at how much we get to invest in learning with our kids and how much red tape we don't have to deal with and negative sorts of things, and how much trust is put into the district to do the right thing for kids. So he said exactly that. He said, you all better look around and thank your lucky stars you're here based on my experience with some of these other school districts.
Every conversation I've had since coming here is about what's best for the learners. Every single one, whether it's with other adult staff or families or school board members. Every time I'm having a conversation about SAU 47, it's how are the learners? How do we meet them where they're at? How do we help them grow? Which is wonderful. And the people that have built that here should feel really proud of that.
Very nice. Daisy, any more questions? Any more questions?
Nope.
Me either. Thank you all so much.
Thank
for
you.
all of your work on this and starting off this school year.